Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, and this podcast is dedicated to helping individuals start and build a successful accounting, bookkeeping, and tax business. Each podcast episode is basically dedicated to helping you identify tips and tricks to help you with your marketing, pricing, obviously offering quality accounting services, things that will actually assist you with onboarding your clients, maybe practice management, workflow, client relations, and retention strategies. All of these things meant to actually help you become the premier accounting firm in your area and, in fact, getting paid what you're worth. As your host, I'd like you to know that I've been working with accounting professionals now for more than 20 years, helping them successfully start and build their businesses, identifying the clients that they would like to work with, determining what they would like to make and earn for their standard of living, and lastly, having fun working with the clients that they service. So I invite you to actually take the time to subscribe to this podcast and listen to our other episodes. But today we have a special guest, somebody that I'm excited to speak with, someone that I'm sure you're going to learn from. It's Chris Siebeneck. Chris happens to actually be a marketing and advertising expert. She's been helping people get the right message to the right people and at the right time. Now, if you happen to be 2 out of the 3, this still works because she helps you actually educate and raise to the level of honesty and transparency in the online marketing world that you need to be in. Now, with more than 20 years of experience in advertising agencies focusing on digital strategies, since the beginning of the marketing age, she's really learned to do really 2 things: strategize in the sense of helping you have a foundation in your marketing so that each customer type is identified and their needs are being met from the strategies that you're offering when reaching out to them to find where they are and how to meet their needs. But she also helps you strategize using all the pieces together: website, SEO, paid Google ads, banner ads, video ads, billboards, mailers, TV, radio, making them all work together as a single unit. So this is going to be a great discussion as she helps us understand how we can have a better, more compelling online message to get the clients we want. So Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Roger, for having me. I'm really excited to help you today.
Well, I think this is going to be fun. So let me start with something that I think everyone should understand, and it's something that may not be as obvious to someone outside of the profession like yourself, but that's the terminologies that are sometimes used as we're talking about the internet and advertising and marketing. And let's start with SEO versus SEM. Those are 2 terms that are used frequently, but honestly, what is each?
Yeah, so SEO is search engine optimization, and the other one is search engine marketing, right? So marketing is more of the paid ad side, pay-per-click, paid ads, pay-per impression, and then the SEO is organic. It's earning that trusted spot in the results when you search something, being the trusted answer to the question.
You know, what's interesting is when I think of SEO, the word that always comes to my mind is I'm hoping one day something I do or say will be viral. Why can't it just go viral? But SEO, you're right. It's just one of those things that we play the game of the search algorithms, the Googles, the Bings, the Yahoos. What is it that we need that when somebody searches a term that's going to allow us to rise to the top and be the first thing that's delivered as a solution? Is that a fair way of describing it?
Yes, absolutely. So we want to talk about quality. Are you the best answer for the question? Just like in an encyclopedia, you need to be the answer, the entry to that question, right? And you need to have information there that answers that question. And that's really what Google's looking for. Yahoo and Bing are a little bit separate in that they're in a little bit of an old-fashioned search, more about quantity versus quality. So we aim for Google and we wait for Bing and Yahoo to come along.
Very good. I like that. Now, in SEO, there are various types. Can you tell us a little bit about the types of SEO?
Absolutely. And a lot of times these are just, let me do your SEO, but you don't need all of them all of the time. I break them down into 4 different areas of SEO. You have your on-site. again, be the encyclopedia entry to the question that's being asked, right? Whether you're bookkeeping or filing people's taxes or you're doing accounting or CFO, you need to be the answer to those questions that people are asking in your industry. The second one is your technical SEO, which a lot of people ignore, even other SEO agencies, because it's hard. You've got to have your strategists and your programmers work together, and they don't generally see eye to eye. So they need to understand how to do the tech strategically. So making sure your site's fast enough, making sure all of the blanks are filled in, et cetera. And then you have your offsite SEO, your people talking about you, those links that are coming in, telling Google other people think you're the answer to that question. So that's what an offsite link is for. It's just a vote of confidence from somebody else aiming at you. And then the fourth type would be considered a local SEO for maps. If you have a location where you need foot traffic, map SEO is a specific type of SEO that is different than all those other three, that's really trying to strengthen your Google My Business and other directory listings to feel that your location, your spot, or even your service area, if you don't have a location with foot traffic, is optimized and is also the answer to the question. Make sure that your description matches what you do during the day, what you want phone calls for.
You know, I loved how you've broken that down into four things because they make clear sense when you think about them each individually. So the last one you mentioned is obviously your business listing. If you're a business that's looking for foot traffic or geography, it matters. And that can be the case with accounting and bookkeeping. It's kind of nice to have a client that's down the street, or conversely, the client likes to know their accountant, bookkeeper, tax preparer is down the street. We all would love just to get clients virtually anywhere and everywhere, but that business listing, having that mapping element, can be very, very invaluable. And then the next thing that you brought up was obviously the backlinks. If we can just have the credibility, we've said or done something that somebody's wanted to reference and link to, those give us credibility. Google appreciates knowing that other people find that what we've said is important, so that helps us there. But you alluded to, and I think this is important, is the content. There's all this back end stuff. It's one thing to write a page on the internet. It's another thing to fill in the meta tags and keyword descriptions and such. So I just wanted to kind of circle back to, what is it about keywords or keyword phrases that are helpful when it comes to SEO?
Oh, that's a great question. So when we talk about content, we want words on page in paragraph format. People will tell you, don't put words on pages. People don't read them. Maybe not, but Google does. And if somebody is researching you, they want information. They will read your content. So have 300 to 500 words on the page. And you don't want to say the word accounting over and over and over again, right? It sounds funny. And Google's starting to see keyword stuffing as well, not beginning. They've seen that and they've flagged that multiple times over the years. And so what you want to do is sound natural, but then reiterate to Google, I am answering the question about corporate accounting or personal accounting or small business accounting, or I want to do taxes for business owners, or different things that you're focusing on that you want calls for. Make sure to mention that multiple times and then add information about that, about how you do it. Maybe tell stories if you don't have a bunch of encyclopedia type information about accounting. You want to tell stories about how you've helped people straighten out their books or refile their taxes for the last couple of years because they haven't been doing it correctly, or helping with their bookkeeping, making sure things are organized correctly for taxes when they come up, right? So you want to make sure to have things about that, not just blog articles. You need to have static landing pages that are answers to small business bookkeeping, right? You want that page that is the answer to and not a blog article. Then you go into a blog article about small business bookkeeping and tax filing and how to make sure that you're taking account each type of money and where it goes, right? So you want to have blogs, yes, for long tail, specifically about questions that you're being asked. If you get a question routinely from normal people about what you do, make that into a blog article because I bet they're Googling it also. So make that the answer to that question. But generally, you want your keywords in your meta, in your content. Each page gets to be the answer to a specific question, right? And there's new types of on-site. There's data highlighter markup, there's schema, there's things that you can do in the back end that make this page the absolute best answer for a specific question.
I love what you're describing there. And one thing specifically stood out to me, and it's the fact that there are really two audiences that you're creating the website for. The first audience, well, actually, I don't know which one we want to say is
Chicken or
first.
the
So
egg?
I might say it one way and then 5 seconds later say the other is going to be the primary. But the point is one is Google. Google is your audience. It's going to, with the web crawlers, go through the site, identify what the content is, and it's from that you're going to get the rankings that you do with your pages. So your first audience is actually an algorithm, a robot. It's Google trying to actually get its attention and have it see you as being relevant for the content that you have on your site so that it can serve it up to your customer. But the second person is obviously the human being, the customer, that's trying to navigate through your site. So you're writing to Google, and it's the keyword densities, and it's trying to help the robots see with the web crawlers that you have relevant content. But you've got to write to your audience. You can't just have the word accountant redundantly used on the page. It's got to be natural and flowing and compelling. And so you've got these two audiences that you're really creating content for. And then I liked how you were describing blogging. Blogging, I think, is something that in the accounting profession, we've sometimes heard as we should be blogging. You should have a bunch of content that you're writing regularly so that the audience has maybe a newsletter or wealth of information to draw upon. Well, that's great and dandy, but when you spoke a moment ago, you made it clear the pages that we're drafting, the 500, 1,000 word page that we're creating needs to be specific to one particular keyword or keyword phrase. And then I write another blog post or another bit of content for another keyword phrase or word. And it's very deliberate. We're intentionally writing things with the intent of meeting a specific need to get the attentions of the web crawlers, and at the same time to be compelling and interesting to our audience. So I liked how you described that. That was really good. So SEO, how do we know if it's something we should even be worried about? I mean, sometimes I can honestly say as an accounting professional, I wonder whether or not anybody's even looking at my website. I've gotten so many clients already, and it's not been that the website's really made that big of a difference. So how do I know that SEO is something I should be targeting or worried about next?
Oh, that's a great question. So let's calm this down to a small question. Do you want people to find you for what you do?
Excellent.
Right? So that's the question. And maybe you're small enough that you just need to go out and do some networking, right? Or just maybe some LinkedIn messages to people. Because if you got 5 or 10 phone calls a day, it will kill you, right? If you got too many phone calls, you couldn't answer the phone and do the work. So until you have enough employees that somebody else is answering the phone and somebody else is doing the work, and you can follow up quickly with these leads that Google is giving you, then you don't want to be there, right? So if you've got a slow time, maybe pay-per-click ads where you can turn them on and off are better for you. Because when you're like, oh, I can't take any more calls, you just pause it and then it stops showing. But if I get you ranked on Google for bookkeeping in New York City, you're going to get calls regularly. And if you can't handle that, then everything's going to fall apart. You're going to get bad reviews, you're going to get a bad word of mouth, and that's not going to help anybody. So what we want to know is how much business can you handle? Do you have employees that can help, field different types of leads? Do you want phone calls? Do you want forms emailed into you? Is it something like a piece of software that you're offering on your website where they can sign up for it without a lot of hand-holding from your employees? So what we want to know is how busy are you? Can you handle that? Is there other ways of getting you business that's faster and easier? Do you need phone calls next week? Because SEO is not for that. That's pay-per-click. That's LinkedIn ads. That's LinkedIn messaging. That will get you phone calls next week. SEO takes patience and time. It needs to be on a website that you want to build over time. Like in a year, it's going to be a lot stronger than it is now. Is this URL? Is this the website you want to work with? We can change out the websites, but the URL stays, right? So as soon as you build up that strength on that URL, that's really what you're stuck with. So let's talk futuristic. In 6 months or a year, where do you want to be? SEO is not going to work this week. So if you want in 6 months to hire 5 people, this SEO may be for you, right? I've worked with small accounting people who were prepared to be the boss and hire, and they had some people in mind that they thought would be great coworkers, and they were ready to grow. But if you're a small bookkeeping firm, maybe in Park City, Utah, and you don't necessarily want to hire people because you want to be more hands-on, then maybe we do something more short-term.
So there's a few things there that I really want to tap into. One is identifying the purpose of the website. If it's meant to be just a online confirmation of the services that you offer, or validation of the fact that you are in fact in business, then it's just a digital brochure. It's basically a confirmation of who you already are. If you're using it because you're intending to actually have it be a magnet, that through search engines, people are finding you online, that they're actually through the website becoming acquainted with you for the first time, then we need to look at what we can do to draw traffic to the website. And that's really where you go back to the beginning of our conversation, SEO or SEM. On the short run, we can obviously, through paid ads, we can drive people to the site. We can get eyeballs on an ad that we can have them click on and end up on your site. But that's the short game. And you said rightfully so, that you can turn that up or turn that down. There's money being spent as to how many impressions and how much click-through we're getting there. But on the long game, when we're talking about you're going to be in business for years, and what kind of marketplace presence you want to have, what kind of dominance you want to have on the internet as to people finding you, that's the long game. And the long game is won by creating this compelling content, the content that the web bots actually appreciate and they actually want to serve up as being the authority. And that's the long game, because you're right, from an SEO perspective, it's not like you're going to write content today and tomorrow 1,000 people are going to come to your website and read it. It's more, I'm going to write the content today, and this month maybe 2 people see it, next month 10 people, the next month 100 people, and it's the long game that I'm going for. So I liked how you described that. But here's the next thing. One of the things that the website then needs to have, we're getting this traffic, whether it's SEO or SEM, we're getting the traffic, and we need a call to action. What can you say about a call to action? What should I be considering in order to get the person to act, and what is it that I want them to do? Do you have any suggestions with that?
Absolutely. So my first thought when I get to a website is, what do you want me to do next? And it needs to be very obvious. People are not going to go searching for your contact information. You need to have forms right up front. You need to have a click-to-call phone number. You need to have, if you want phone calls, right? But if you have a click-to-call phone number and it goes into a mailbox and it doesn't go to a human being, you want to make sure that what you want them to do is how you want them to come to you, right? Fill out a form, download a white paper, book a meeting, buy something, sign up for a newsletter, phone calls, that sort of thing. But what you need to do is make it obvious what you want them to do. Don't hide your buttons. Don't make it hard. Make the next step obvious to anybody sitting on your page, right? Press here, click now, something like that. Because people don't want it to be hard. They want to be told what to do. So, and don't give them too many options. 4 or 5, click here, go to this page for the newsletter, go over here for more information about my accounting services versus bookkeeping versus taxes, right? So you have the drop down in the services area, and click to phone call, click to fill out a form, and then you've got your 5 things for them to do.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough what you just said is being important, because you spent all this time, you've perhaps spent money with your search engine marketing ads to get people to the website. They land there, they're on your page, and we're considering what's called bounce rate, how long they stay there. We're looking at page views, how many pages they actually will visit on the site as they maybe navigate around. But the question is they're there, now what? What's the call to action? What do you want them to do? What's the start of this journey that they're going to be doing with you? And knowing that, we just need to be very clear and specific. Click here, fill this out, set up a time to speak with me. It's you just have to tell the people what to do, and then we're going to then see how compelling the site is as to how many results you're actually getting. Are you getting the forms filled out 1 a day? Well, I wanted 10 a day. Well, what can we do to get 10 a day? Well, we can then refine and maybe do A/B testing and so forth to get a better result.
Right.
But I like this conversation. It's so good. So how can you tell me if the person I'm working with, such as yourself, that's helping me with this SEO and helping me, I mean, I'm a good accountant, but this whole internet stuff isn't making sense. So I hire somebody to come in and help me not only just understand SEO, SEM, and so forth, but they're doing things for me. How do I know if it's even working, if it's actually, if they're making a difference?
And that's a great question, because it is a lot of times hard to tell. Digital marketing can be faked very, very easily. And that's a problem in our industry because we don't have a ton of transparency in our work. So what we want is to, one, you want to get more leads than you did last month or the month before or year over year. Like if tax season, so if you're a tax person and it's June, you're not necessarily going to get more leads on that than you did in March, right? That's not logical. But year over year, you should be improving. With SEO, there's actually work that can be done that they can show you. The articles that are being created and linked back to your site, you should be able to go and read those and see that your link is inside the content. It's high quality. It's an interesting article that Google can read and the domain authority is transferring. That should be something that you can see being done. Inside of SEM and LinkedIn and other ads, you should be able to see, this is how many impressions, this is how many clicks. And then once I got to my site, this is how many people filled out my form or called. So let's say you got 2% click-through rate, you got 200 people to your site. Of those, 10 of them filled out the form or called or did something. So you've got leads coming from the money you're spending. If there's no leads coming from the money you're spending, somebody needs to go back and look at the ads. Is your site not matching what people are looking for? They're looking for accounting. They're landing on a bookkeeping page. They're not filling out your form because that's not what they're looking for, right? So you want to make sure that everything is lined up to be exactly what the people are searching for. You are the answer. They want help. They're out Googling accounting. It's not because they want to be an accountant. And if they are, then that's not the type of people you want them to land on your site. So make sure that the ads equal what you do and that the words, the promises inside those ads is what you want them to call you about. Need help with your accounting? Need some quick bookkeeping? Want us to look at your taxes from last year and see if they were done correctly? That's the kind of ads. Oh, yes, that's what I want. You land them on a page about looking at the taxes, then they call because that's what they're looking for. You are the answer to their problem that they're trying to solve. I know the CFO market, the outsourced CFO market has a problem with people not really looking for what they do, but looking because they've got problems that the outsourced CFOs can fix. So have pages about the problems that you fixed, right? Because people understand the problems they've got, and then you know that you can fix those. That's what your website needs to be about. Maybe not the word outsourced CFO, but fixing financial difficulties in small businesses without having to hire a whole person to do it. So that's the kind of message you want to be sending to the ads that you're putting out there, that SEO you're doing, that you should get results. You should get ranking changes. You should get traffic. You should get reports about work they have actually accomplished in the time that they've been, you've been paying them. You pay them, they do work. They should be able to show it.
Yeah. You know, I think one of the things that's very helpful here as accounting professionals is we like numbers. We want to be able to see changes. And so from an SEO perspective, typically reports can be generated to say, for this keyword in this key phrase, on this date, you were perhaps ranking such that you appeared in slot 13 or on page 3, and we've keyword optimized some content, we've written some stuff, and now all of a sudden, 3 months later, you're ranking not 13, but you're now number 7. You're not on page 3, you're now on page 2. And you can see numerically these changes. You can see that the effort is paying off. And what's more important is you have what's called Google Analytics. Analytics will actually tell you specifically for, let's say, a period of time, 30 days, you had last month, let's say 25 people come to your website. This month, you've had 55 people come to your website. Okay, we're moving in the right direction. We can see where that traffic came from. This wasn't traffic that I sent that were direct links. These were people that actually searched a key phrase and they came from maybe, let's say, Google. And so instead of them typing in my address because they knew my website, they're being sent there because of searches that they're doing. This is helpful. And then we're able to look at other analytics, as I was mentioning earlier, the bounce rate. If it's too high of a number, we're realizing that the content that they're landing on isn't relevant. They don't see what they're looking for, so they leave the site. well, do we have a stickiness component to it? But I think the end all be all is exactly what you said. We need to start with the end in mind. What do we want this customer to do when they land on the site? And if it's call, how many calls did we get this month? Is it up or is it down? If it's filling out a form, if it's maybe scheduling time on my calendar, what's the objective of the site? What do we want them to do? And then we measure that metric. Did we get more appointments this month than we did last month? Did I get more phone calls than I did the previous month? Those metrics then determine whether or not the effort, the work is paying off. But with SEO, it's the long haul. It's not like I want to see today or tomorrow or next week the change. But with SEM, I could very well see I turned up the ads, I spent this money, what came from it this week. So those are two very important things that I think you explained well. Now, let's talk about advertising. When you advertise, do you really show up when you're, when you're being searched for? How do you assess that?
So for all of advertising, or are we talking about just pay-per-click?
So let's talk about pay-per-click. So obviously, from an SEM perspective, I'm spending money to have eyeballs. So I'm looking for clicks, people to click on the ad. When you advertise, do you show up when you're actually being searched for? Am I going to have an ad and SEO at the same time? Will I show up twice?
You will. And actually, it's not always a bad thing. 20% of the people will click on an ad. That's not very many, right? Most of us jump over the ads and go to the organic. So having both doesn't cost you anything. If they're going to click on the ad, be there, right? Tons of businesses do both, because it's not that people are going to go click on the ad if they weren't going to begin with. They're not going to say, oh, there's an organic and there's an ad, I think I'll click on the ad. They click on the ad because they're looking for a fast and easy answer. It's at the top. Being in both places gives you more real estate in the results. Now you're 20% of the results there. So that's not a bad thing. And so we want to make sure, though, that you're showing up for the right things at the right time. Pay-per-click, you can give it a small budget, say $500, and you show up 10% of the time. Your impression share is 10% of the time, which means 1 out of 10 searches you're showing up. So if you're out there Googling your words to see if your ad shows up, you're taking that one spot. So you don't necessarily want to go out and Google yourself for paid ads. You want to take the results that you're getting to Google Analytics and through the ads reporting showing you had 200 impressions, you had 15 clicks, this was how much you spent. So that's where you're getting that results from. But you do want to make sure that you're showing up for the right words, right? If you have an ad out there that's talking about accounting, but people are getting an ad for your accounting firm, but they're looking for accounting classes, and they keep clicking on you and you're spending money on these people who for some reason think you're offering classes and you're not, then you've got the wrong words. Right? So you want to make sure to narrow the words down to exactly what you want to show up for, especially if you have a small budget. You want to make sure that that is being optimized to the 5 or 10 words in the smallest geographical area that you can do, so that you're maximizing your impressions to be exactly what you want. Now, your bigger budgets can go statewide. They can cover 1,000 different words, and then you just want to make sure that you're focusing the money on the ones that are bringing in the clients. So the bigger the budget, the bigger the words, the geo that you want to target, but really just trust Google to show your ad and charge you when people are coming to your site. You can take your Google Analytics and set it side by side and see the traffic coming in. They say you have 500 clicks, but you had 25 people visit your site. Something's broken there.
So let's talk about your spending money on ads, you're advertising in LinkedIn, Facebook, you're specifically sending people through these dollars to your website. You have on your landing page where you're sending them to show up, you have what's called a quality score. How can a quality score impact your advertising?
That's absolutely important in Google. Your quality score is about your page, your ad, and your keyword all matching, right? They want the word you're using, the ad you're putting with that keyword, and then the content on the page to equal. So that's where your quality score comes out. So if you've got a quality score of 3 or 4, you're taking an accounting term and you're tossing them to a bookkeeping page. That's your issue. So you need to make sure that those are higher. You'll pay less if your quality score is higher. So if your quality score is is high because everything matches, means you're a great answer to that question, and Google will charge you less. Google makes the ads like a salesperson, right? And if your salesperson, your ad versus everybody else's isn't matching up, isn't doing their job, Google won't show your ad. They won't let that salesperson out of the barn, right? So you want to make sure that your salesperson is the best salesperson for that money that you're spending. A lot of people turn it on, let Google pick the words, maybe even make the ads and just run it, and then they say, oh, it doesn't work. Well, maybe you didn't spend enough time with it, right? You need to make sure it's doing the job it's intended for. Your website is a salesperson. If you don't give it any training, it's not going to do its job right.
Yep. So one of the ways that I like to describe this is you're actually creating an ad for the keyword accounting services. You create the ad for accounting services, but when they click on the ad, they land on a page that talks about tax services. Well, there's probably a big disconnect there. They're looking for compliancy work, bookkeeping services, and you're talking about tax returns and tax preparation. So what you should have done is had a landing page that was dedicated towards bookkeeping and accounting services. And then for a second ad, you would have the keyword of tax. They would land on a page offering tax services. Now your quality score goes up because the landing page and the ad match. The likelihood of somebody landing there and filling out the form, the likelihood of the person not bouncing out is not as high because it's relevant now. And that's what we're looking for. So let's talk about now working things together. You've got things like networking, and I've got mailers, or maybe I've got radio. Who knows what I'm doing? I've got all these things. How can I get them to work together?
That's a great question. I love this question from agencies, because agencies are often saying, well, I'm doing all this radio and TV, but it's just not working. And I said, right, but if you're advertising for small business taxes, right? I'm helping small businesses with their taxes. And then when you Google small business taxes, you don't show up in Google, then there's a disconnect there, because somebody's getting that traffic. You've given somebody the idea that they can get help with their small business taxes, but you're not the answer, right? So the problem is where are they going with your radio and TV, even billboards? You're giving them ideas. You need to be the answer to that. If you're doing a billboard or something about outsourced CFO, I know that a couple of those businesses around here have done some billboarding. Make sure that you're one of the answers when they Google that, because you've given them an idea of, oh, I'd never even thought about outsourcing that job. Now they're going to go research it, right? But also other banner ads. People don't click on banner ads. Make sure that the message you're sending is one that you're the answer for. And if you have to, do pay-per-click to match those ads that you're sending out. You can't get ranked on SEO for an ad that's going out next week. So let's put some pay-per-click behind that message. You want to also make sure that your branding, the colors, the logos, the fonts are all matching. So when they see your website, it matches the billboard that they saw. So like, oh, it's the same place, right? It's branding matters, because your name is going to become who you are. And in networking, people will go and research you after they meet you at networking events. And if you don't show up in Google as one of the best answers for what you're talking about in your networking groups, maybe they're going to start questioning, right? Google's our BFF. If we have a question, we ask Google this question. And when you get these answers, these 10 answers that Google's giving you to this question, and you're like, that's not the answer I'm looking for, you don't go to page 2 and page 3. You go retype your answer, because you assume your question wasn't the right question, instead of Google didn't give me the right answer, because Google obviously knows what they're talking about. So it must be me. So you go and you redo this question, because that was the answer to the question I asked. I must need to ask a different question. So trust that the way that Google works, and be that answer to what you're advertising, what you want to do. If you love taxes more than accounting, let's talk about taxes. The accounting will come along with it, right? And if bookkeeping is your happy place, you just love QuickBooks more than life, let's talk about that. Let's make sure that the people that are coming to you are the kinds of businesses, kinds of clients you want to have.
So, quick question. Is there any advertising or marketing that is working today for an accounting professional online that you would suggest or encourage them to look into?
A couple of different things. One is Google. Absolutely, people, if they have an accountant and they don't trust them, they'll Google it. If they need help because they've just figured out that they're way over their head, or they got audited or something, they're going to Google it, right? They're Googling for answers. But number 2 would be LinkedIn. I'm finding that a lot of the accounting businesses, when they're messaging business owners directly through LinkedIn saying, hey, I really like to help with this specific problem. If you know of somebody with that issue, let me know. Just like being helpful, being a consultant on LinkedIn, that's bringing in people who have that problem and you can help them. That's a good outreach option for networking, which also is obviously face-to-face networking is a great way as well.
This is such a great conversation. I know in the accounting world, these are things that everybody wants to ask. They know they need a website, but I think at that point, there's just a lot of questions. So this has been a wonderful conversation. So I'm going to ask, what haven't I asked that I should have asked? What should I know that I've not yet brought up?
I think we've really covered the basics in what is online marketing and how can it help you. But really, it's a business to business decision. Just because your neighbor is doing SEO and SEM doesn't mean that's what you should be doing. Make sure to get your options. SEO companies should not be telling you SEO is the only thing you should ever do, because it's not always true. So make sure that for your website, your business, where you're at with the number of employees that you have or how much business you have, that you're getting great ideas for how to keep busy or grow, right? You have those two options. If you're just happy with where you're at and you just want to keep busy, that's different than growing. Or if you want to be the biggest and the best in the whole nation, that's a whole nother kettle of fish, right? The goals are different, and make sure that that is specific to you and how you're doing business.
Very good. I love this. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to summarize some of the things that we've talked about, and then I'm going to come back to you, Chris, and I'd like to get a closing thought as to what you'd like to kind of wrap this up with. So first of all, before I give that summary, let me just mention a few things about our sponsors today. Regarding our sponsors, we've got two great things that you're going to definitely want to check out. Now, to do this, you need to go to the episode description. And in the description, what you're first of all going to find is that you have the opportunity with Chris to get a free SEO strategy session with a website audit and ranking report. This is going to be something that I think all of us need and should take advantage of, because it's a great way to, first of all, really see where we are today, and hopefully with Chris's help, find out where we may be able to now progress or move in the future. So go to the episode description and there find the link to get your free SEO strategy session with Chris and a website audit for basically your website and a ranking report of your searches. Now, with that, I also want to encourage you to take advantage of the offer from Universal Accounting, which is to learn more about how you can now use a CRM to take these contacts that you're getting online and actually manage them through a sales funnel, a process that you can use to actually help your potential customers see you as the expert and understand better the services that you're providing. In this, you're actually going to attend a webinar where it's being explained things such as what is funnel marketing and selling, what it is about actionable items, what it is you can be doing with your CRM to help it complement all of your efforts and keep you organized and on top of the contacts that you have. There's a lot of things that can be done in a business regarding CRMs, client relationship management, and in that, basically leverage our time to be more effective in staying in touch with the contacts that we have and getting them to move closer to becoming, in fact, paying customers. So I encourage you to go to the episode description and find out more what it is you can be doing in your business to leverage technology using a CRM to funnel your prospects to becoming, in fact, paying customers. So with that in mind, check out the episode description as well as the offers that are there for you to take advantage of. Now, I want to do a great little summary here because I think we've just discussed so much wonderful content regarding our online presence. And so first of all, Chris did us a great job at the beginning of just first of all explaining the difference between SEO and SEM. It's really what are we able to do today, kind of an immediate type thing to help generate leads and have people go to our website, and then the long haul, what it is that we can be doing to actually be in this for the long haul and be relevant online with the searches and understanding the distinction between SEO and SEM. We were able to discuss some very important things regarding how to properly discuss SEO and what it is that a person helping us with SEO should be providing to us as reports and what should we be tracking and watching. These are things that from an accounting perspective, we want to see. We want to see those numbers and we want to see those changes. The other thing that I think was helpful is she was very clear as to explaining how we can actually utilize our website to complement our marketing and sales strategy. We need to have that website, and it needs to just be more than a online brochure. It can be leveraged in so many ways to actually complement our marketing and sales efforts if we do it intentionally and deliberately. And that's what an SEO person can help us do, is deliberately utilize this online presence to our advantage in getting new contacts, leads, and sales. So with that being said, I want to encourage you to listen again to this podcast and kind of hear again some of the things that might be new to you, some of the terminologies and phrases, so that you can better understand what it is you can be doing to leverage your online presence. So with that being said, Chris, what are some final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience?
I think my final thought would be Google can be your friend. Be the best answer to the questions Google's being asked. Google wants great answers. Be that for them, and then they can love you forever.
Perfect. There are those two audiences, as we mentioned earlier. There's Google, and then there's your customer base. So let's make sure we're meeting each of their needs. So with that being said, I thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show today. This was an excellent discussion, something that I know is very timely, and for the accounting profession, many things that they really do need to hear and know. So I'm glad we had this conversation today. I appreciate you being on the show. And just as a reminder to everyone listening, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast. We actually post new episodes each and every week to help you, in fact, build the premier accounting firm. And be sure to check out the episode description and check out the offers that were mentioned earlier, that of the website review, as well as the CRM webinar that's coming up to help you understand how you can be leveraging your CRM. But at the same time, check out our other episodes. There are numerous other topics that we've addressed to help you actually focus on things that you can be doing now to work on your business to become the premier accounting firm. For more information about how you can apply these principles in your business, we also invite you to go to universalaccountingschool.com or give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. And always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care and have a great day, everybody.